Welcome back everyone. In this lesson we are going to talk about debugging selectors. Now in our previous lesson we've already touched about a way we can interact with selectors, and that was the explore functionality from our Playwright inspector. In this lesson I'm going to show you a different approach where you can use the DevTools and you can use you have a way in Playwright where you can expose the Playwright object to your DevTools. Now, if you remember, in our previous lesson, we've set up debug, the environment variable, to be equal to 1, in which case it will start the inspector each time we run a test. Now, that variable has a different value you can set, which is console. So I'm going to use the sign in existing user test, and this time I'm going to set the pwdebug value to console. Okay, so what we've done over here is we actually exposed a Playwright object to the DevTools that we can interact with, and we can explore and play around with selectors using that. So how this works is you would also need to set up a debug point in your application. In my case, I'm going to put a breakpoint. We already have one over here, right before clicking the count button. Now, I'm going to debug my test, and I will wait for my test to reach this point right before clicking the count button. And after that, I'm going to open up the DevTools in my Chrome browser. So you can see over here it stopped in my debug point. I'm going to use inspect, and I'm going to console. And here in my console, you can see that I have access to this Playwright object, and I can use this to identify different elements in my page. So for example, for the count button, I've used this selector over here, and I'm just going to copy this, and this should return the HTML for this element, which is this button over here. Another method I could use is, let's say, inspect, which will bring me to the location of this element in my HTML code. You can see it has brought me over here in my source code. Now, if we go to the documentation, you will see that you also have access to different methods for this object that you can use to play around with your selectors. But for me, the first two are the most important. Another action, I can actually call the click on my button from my console. So if I go with the first call, I can actually use click, and this will click the account button. So this is a way you can actually test your selectors in DevTools.